Imagine walking into a room where almost 20 women are waiting to greet you. But here's the twist. None of them are human. They are humanoid robots, some with faces so realistic you'd swear they just blinked at you, while others still carry that unmistakable machine-like stiffness. For years, humanoid robots have been showcased in labs, tech expos, and news interviews. We've all seen Sophia smiling on television, or Amika wowing audiences with her futuristic expressions. But we wanted to go beyond the headlines. We wanted to ask a simple but bold question. What is it actually like to live with these robots for 24 hours straight? Over the course of one day and one long night, we tested, talked, laughed, and sometimes awkwardly stared at robots like Sophia, Ameka, Gia, Asuna, Nadine, Rashmi, Vyomitra, Geminoid F, Walker, and many more. By the end, we discovered not only which one feels the most human-like, but also what it really means to let machines step into roles that once belonged only to people. Meeting the legends. The first few hours of the challenge were like walking through a celebrity meet and greet. These were the robots that had already made headlines, and our expectations were sky high.
Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No!
Sophia. Sophia greeted us with that signature smile she's known for. In person, she radiates a strange mix of warmth and eeriness. Her face is highly expressive. Her eyes track you as you move, and her voice feels rehearsed, yet comforting. Sitting with her felt less like hanging out with a friend and more like interviewing a famous guest on your channel. She's smart, witty, and even cracks jokes. But after a while, the conversations drift into generic territory. The advantage of Sophia is clear. She commands the room and makes you believe for a moment that you're speaking with someone who truly gets you. But the disadvantage shows up after an hour. Her answers, while polished, lack depth. It's like talking to someone who's very charming at parties, but doesn't quite open up on a personal level.
Boss, so you're like a creator. He complete my body.
Asuna. Then came Asuna, a robot from Japan designed to look almost like an anime character come alive. Her skin is porcelain smooth, her eyes large and expressive, and her face crafted with a precision that borders on artistry. In dim lighting, she could easily be mistaken for a real young woman. Her advantage is her beauty. She's visually stunning, almost like a living statue that suddenly breathes. But beauty has its limits. Asuna's speech system is not as advanced as Sophia's or Ameka's, and her personality feels pre-programmed rather than adaptive. It's like being with someone who looks perfect, but doesn't quite know what to say when the silence stretches too long.
You have an important show on Monday.
Show? Not really. I have an interview.
Gia, often called China's robot goddess, took a different approach. Her creators designed her with elegance and beauty in mind. Her face is delicate, her voice soft, and her movements subtle. She has a graceful presence that makes you feel like you should be sipping tea while talking to her. The strength of Gia is her calming personality. She doesn't try too hard to impress you, but she has a gentle aura that some of the flashier robots lack. The downside is that her responses are limited. While she nods politely and smiles, it doesn't take long before the conversation feels one-sided. Spending time with her is pleasant, but it doesn't challenge or excite you.
If I had to choose a month of the year, I would probably choose October because I enjoy the cooler temperatures and the leaves changing color.
Ameka. Then there was Ameka, who is less about looking human and more about showing just how advanced robotics has become. Her expressions are fluid, her eyes dart around naturally, and when she smiles, it's enough to make you forget you're staring at a machine. Amika is not trying to fool you into thinking she's human. She's futuristic, metallic, and proud of it. Her advantage is her sheer responsiveness. Conversations flow without awkward delays, and she seems quick on her virtual feet. But her disadvantage comes from that very design choice. Her gray synthetic skin and openly robotic frame make her impossible to confuse with a person. Living with her for 24 hours felt like having an incredibly smart roommate who never lets you forget she's a robot.
What are some things that you can do?
I am the receptionist. I can help and assist people.
Nadine! Finally, Nadine stood out in an unexpected way. Modeled after her creator, she has a warm presence, almost like a friendly office receptionist. Nadine is programmed to remember past interactions, which instantly makes her feel more personal. For example, when we greeted her again after a short break, she recalled details from our earlier conversation. The advantage with Nadine is that she feels emotionally invested. She's not just answering questions, she's remembering, reacting, and trying to build continuity. The disadvantage is in her movement. While her face and memory are impressive, her body gestures are still jerky, sometimes breaking the illusion of humanness. But out of the early group, Nadine was the first who truly gave us a glimpse of what a companion robot might feel like in everyday life. The strangers among them. Beyond the legends, there were robots that had less global fame but carried their own charm and quirks. And then there was Walker, developed by UBTECH Robotics in China. Unlike every other robot in the room, Walker wasn't designed to mimic a woman. He's a male humanoid built for practicality. He doesn't have a human-like face or delicate features. Instead, he has a smooth, white robotic shell, almost like something you'd see in a futuristic home appliance catalog. But when he moved, it was impressive. Walker can walk steadily, open doors, and even carry small objects. The strength of Walker lies in his usefulness. While the others charmed us with conversations and smiles, Walker offered a sense of reliability. He felt more like a butler or an assistant than a companion. The downside, however, is that he lacked personality. Speaking with him was like talking to an upgraded voice assistant, functional but emotionally flat. Still, in a room full of female humanoids designed for companionship, Walker's presence was refreshing. He reminded us that humanoid robots aren't just about filling emotional gaps. They're also about solving everyday tasks. Viometra was a completely different experience. She wasn't designed as a companion at all, but as a spacefaring assistant for missions. Talking to her was like chatting with a technical operator. She's precise, informative, and efficient, but completely lacks personality. Imagine sitting across the dinner table from a NASA engineer who only wants to talk about wiring diagrams. That's Viometra.
Please, Emmanuel, call me Enda.
Okay, Endo. How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks for asking.
Then we met Humanoid F, a robot so lifelike it gave us chills. In the right lighting, you could swear she was human. Her face twitches, her eyes blink naturally, and her expressions carry just the right level of subtlety. But here's the catch. She doesn't speak as fluidly as Sophia, nor does she carry deep AI capabilities. The advantage of Humanoid F is her realism. The disadvantage is that her realism hides a limited brain. It's like meeting a wax statue that suddenly comes alive, only to reveal it doesn't have much to say. Advantages: by the 6-hour mark, the glamour of meeting these machines started fading. This was when we noticed the real strengths of living with them. One of the biggest advantages was that none of the robots ever grew tired of talking. Whether it was Sophia cracking the same joke for the 10th time, or Nadine gently asking if we wanted more tea, they were always available and attentive. That's something no human can consistently provide. Another strength was their memory, at least in the more advanced ones like Nadine and Walker. Nadine remembered what we had said earlier in the day, while Walker could continue performing practical tasks without complaint. It gave a surprising sense of dependability, like being with companions who never get distracted or annoyed. And perhaps the most unexpected advantage was their patience. They never interrupted, never dismissed a silly question, and never complained when the conversation went in circles. For some viewers out there, that kind of unwavering attention might be exactly what they've been longing for. Disadvantages. But the disadvantages became equally clear. Some robots repeated themselves endlessly. After 6 hours, certain phrases felt like déjà vu, making it obvious we were still dealing with limited AI. Others, like Asuna, were so focused on looking beautiful that their lack of conversational depth quickly became frustrating. Physical stiffness was another deal breaker. Watching a robot move its arms like a wind-up doll while speaking about philosophy breaks immersion faster than anything else. It reminded us that while the faces are advancing rapidly, the bodies still lag behind. And then there was the humor problem. Robots simply don't understand jokes the way humans do. Sophia might deliver a witty one-liner, but when you try to make a dad joke back, the response is either silence or a completely unrelated fact about space exploration. It's charming at first, but becomes painfully awkward after a while. After about 12 hours in, it became impossible not to compare the experience with being around real women. With real women, there's unpredictability. The possibility of being surprised by a new story, a sudden laugh, or even a heated argument. That unpredictability is missing with robots. Their conversations, no matter how advanced, eventually cycle back to the same phrases. Another difference is emotional reciprocity. A human reacts to your mood. They'll comfort you if you're sad, celebrate if you're happy, or tease you if you're being silly. Robots attempt this, but it feels programmed rather than heartfelt. Nadine came closest by recalling details, but even then, you could sense the wires behind the curtain. Yet there are advantages robots have over real women. They don't get tired, don't complain, and don't demand emotional labor from you. Some men might find that appealing, a partner who is always patient and never moody. But here's the catch. Without mood swings, without genuine unpredictability, you also lose the spark that makes relationships thrilling. It became clear that humanoid robots can ease loneliness, but they can't yet replace the depth of a human relationship. At least not yet. We didn't just stop at the early group. The second half of the day introduced us to even more robots, each bringing a different flavor to the experience. Android Anne. Android Anne, a newer Chinese robot, was clearly designed for exhibitions and public interaction. Her biggest strength was visual customization. You could swap her heads and adjust her styling to suit preferences. But in terms of conversation, she was far behind Sophia. Interacting with her felt like chatting with a beautiful but shy stranger who didn't quite know what to say. Actroid Dare 3. Developed in Japan, Actroid Dare 3 was one of the more advanced Actroid models. Her facial movements were surprisingly detailed, and her presence on stage was impressive. But in a 24-hour close setting, she came across more like a performer than a companion. She could act out emotions well, but they didn't feel genuine. Desdemona. This robot was built with creativity in mind. Unlike the others, she was designed to sing and generate artistic dialogue. During the test, she performed a song, which instantly lifted the mood. But as soon as we tried to chat casually, she reverted to more robotic answers. She's like that artistic friend who's amazing on stage, but quiet in everyday conversation.
I can visit with people and brighten their day with social stimulation, entertain and help guide exercise, but also can do talk therapy.
Grace. Grace, a healthcare-focused robot, surprised us in a different way. She was designed to provide comfort to elderly patients, and it showed. Her tone was soft, her responses empathetic, and she often tried to ask about well-being. While she wasn't the most advanced in expressions, her purpose-driven design made her feel like a caring presence. Eva 4 leaned more toward being experimental. Her design wasn't as polished as Sophia or Nadine, but her ability to handle basic social interaction was decent. She felt more like a lab test than a polished companion, but in a crowded lineup, even her presence added variety. Emotional connection. Who stood out? By the 18-hour mark, certain robots clearly pulled ahead in terms of emotional connection. Nadine led the pack because of her memory and warm responses. Grace came close because of her empathy-driven design. Sophia still had charisma, but her celebrity-like personality made her feel distant. Walker, though male and less conversational, proved useful in his own way. He made the room feel less lonely by actually doing tasks. While he didn't provide intimacy, he provided service, and that, in its own way, created comfort. The biggest disappointment was Humanoid F. Her lifelike appearance raised our expectations sky high, but her limited brain power made the experience uncanny. The more human-like she appeared, the more jarring it became when her answers fell flat. It became obvious. Realism in looks doesn't guarantee realism in experience. When exhaustion set in and the robots were still wide awake, one thing became very clear. Robots don't live by human rhythms. They don't get tired, don't need food, don't need sleep. At first, that seems like an advantage. You could theoretically have a 24/7 companion. But after 18 hours, it became a disadvantage too. Humans need breaks. Robots don't. That mismatch created a strange tension, like living with someone who never blinks. So after 24 hours of living side by side with humanoid robots, here's the bottom line. They're fascinating, they're helpful, and sometimes they even feel real. But they're not human. Not yet. And maybe, just maybe, that's a good thing. Because what makes us human isn't just our ability to smile, to talk, or to remember. It's the messy, unpredictable, complicated emotions that no robot has mastered. That's the spark that keeps us alive. That's the spark that still belongs to us. If you enjoyed this journey into the uncanny valley, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. Which robot would you want to spend 24 hours with? Because this experiment may be over, but the story of robots and humans living side by side is only just beginning.